Good morning, Wellspring.
Good morning.
Welcome. My name is Jim Moore, and I am part of your Sunday, May 8th, 2022 service team. We have a few announcements. First, Early Birds meets Sunday mornings at 9:30 via Zoom. The link is in the weekly email and on the website. Our upcoming speakers, next week we will be blessed with Reverend Kamatara Johnson again. On the 22nd, Edward will be back, still here. And although this says Peggy Shin up here, she has a conflict, so we're going to have a video on May 29th. The Board of Trustees is going to meet this Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. in the social hall, and anyone and everyone is invited to join us. If you like, you'll be more than welcome. Judy Bethman is they're meeting in the New Horizons Band is performing this afternoon at Atkinson's Recital Hall, and Judy's the director of that, so that's why she's not here this morning. I also wanted to mention that the 50th anniversary concert of the Mesilla Valley Chorale is this afternoon at 3 at the Rio Grande. So tickets are available at the door, and they're $10. Lastly, our prayer team remains ready to serve and support you, and you may submit a prayer request via our webpage. The prayer team meets virtually on Tuesday afternoons at 4:15 to pray with you. You may consider sitting in your quiet space during that time. We know we are one in spirit, and the energy of prayer knows no limits. Now I'm going to do an invocation. So sit back and relax. Today is a special day as we celebrate motherhood and the divine feminine. Let us start by being grateful for such a beautiful southern New Mexico day, grateful that we are here to experience it together, and grateful that we are alive. We are all connected to the divine, and that is also our connection to each other. Close your eyes and breathe in and out deeply as we acknowledge the soothing presence of Spirit in this space. We know that Spirit is everywhere and in all things. We know that we can be most in tune with Spirit when we make the time to quiet our minds and simply feel the breath of Spirit touching our cheek or our hand. As we do this now, let us affirm that we will remember to make this a habit. We can feel the breath of Spirit energizing and empowering us periodically throughout each day. It just takes a few moments of calm, relaxed, deep breathing. We display our gratitude for the presence of Spirit in our lives by our smiles and the kind way we treat all of our fellow creatures, human and otherwise. Let us each shine our light and share our truth, not just in the upcoming week, but let's intend to make it a habit that can change our lives forever. And so it is. Now we're ready for the Song of Joy.
It's all about Spirit, Spirit, Spirit. From now on, it's all about Spirit, Spirit, Spirit. From now on, it's all about the Spirit. If you listen, you can hear it. The Spirit from now on. It's all about love, love, love. from now on. It's all about love. A love, a love from now on. It's all about the love from within and from above. A love from now on. It's all about joy, the joy, the joy from now on. It's all about joy, the joy, the joy from now on. Outside the storm is raging, we've got joy at our foundation, the joy from now on. It's all about spirit. Spirit, spirit from now on. It's all about spirit, spirit, spirit from now on. It's all about the spirit. If you listen, you can hear it. The spirit from now on. Yes, it is all about the spirit. If you listen, you can hear it. The spirit from now on. Let's say that again. Spirit from now on. You can say that again. The spirit from now on.
Okay, next we're going to read our vision, mission, and affirmation. Our vision: to elevate spiritual consciousness in our world. Our mission: to support individual spiritual quests through celebration, study, counsel, loving fellowship, and service. Our affirmation: I affirm that all my needs are met in the divine, as are the needs of this spiritual community. We are inspired, supported, and blessed to be the place where love shows up. All is well, all is well, all is well. Now we're going to have some special music.
Yes. Mother's Day and motherhood. We've all got one. We've all had one, and each one is different. Each one is special and unique, and that's why I've always found it so difficult or impossible, really, to write a song about Mother's Day or motherhood. I just, because everybody's so different. Every time I try to write one about the whole thing, motherhood, it just ends up sounding too simplistic or trite, and so I couldn't do that. But I could tell you about my own mother. Her name was Naomi Nell, and she couldn't abide the name Naomi. So she dropped that long before I showed up. Born in 1912 in Ringgold, Texas, grew up in Waurika, Oklahoma, where it was said that she and her brothers and sisters were the poorest kids in town, but also the smartest. And like you might expect from somebody who grew up in that place and time, she had that pioneer spirit and almost a Spartan toughness and practicality. She took it to extremes. For instance, when she went to the dentist, she instructed him always never to use any kind of painkiller on her, even when he did his worst. I don't know why or how she did that. She had a pragmatic wisdom whenever anybody was railing or ranting about their rights, usually as an excuse or rationale for some kind of bad behavior. She would tell them, your rights end where the other fella's nose begins. And she could imagine no other way of being other than hard, determined work. The summer that she decided that our little yellow brick house was too yellow, she sent my brother Daryl and me to scrubbing it brick by brick with hard bristle brushes and buckets of bleach and ladders and under the El Paso sun. One evening, Dad was talking about a meeting he had with the warden of La Tuna prison. He was interviewing him for a book that he was writing. La Tuna prison. The warden gave him a tour of the facility where he saw a little farm with chickens. And the prisoner who tended the farm loved the job, loved having the job. But one task he just couldn't do was killing the chickens. So when they got back to the warden's office, Dad asked him, that prisoner who tends the farm, what crime did he commit to get himself put in La Tuna? Well, the warden said, he tied his wife to a chair and set her on fire. Of course, my brother and I, young minds, hearing that story, we were completely scandalized, of course. And I think we both blurted out at the same time, he did that and he couldn't kill a chicken? My mother, without missing a beat, said he wasn't mad at the chickens. Well, of course, there was a lot more to Nell than just all this pioneer grit. One thing that I didn't really notice as a kid, and my friends didn't really mention, but all the girls who ever came to the house, they did notice. And after they met her, they always remarked about how beautiful she was. And when I was tiny, she was very patient, trying to teach me to write with the elegant, sweeping strokes of her handwriting, and she'd have me drawing circles, looping circles on a piece of paper, reciting the chant, round and round the rugged rock, the ragged rascal ran. And she loved poetry and would recite that one, who has seen the wind? Neither you or I. And there were 2 desert turtles in our backyard, which she would give dry dog food and water to them. And when she went out on the back porch, she'd call them by name, and they'd emerge from the garden like 2 tiny dinosaurs. And when she was old, she wore her white hair up high, like Texas women did in those days. And she taught at the preschool down at the church. And one of the kids named her the lady with clouds in her hair. Naomi Nell Griffith Adams. Just don't call her Naomi.
I have to follow that with my reading. That was awesome. Okay, I got my reading from the May 2017 Science of Mind magazine. That year, it was May 14th was Mother's Day. How are you celebrating Mother's Day? Today can be a joyful occasion for us, or it might be a painful reminder of the mother we never had, or that our mother is no longer with us. For all of us, it can be a day to nurture the mothering energy of our planet. The idea of what a mother should be is beautifully demonstrated in nature, the nature around us. Life as we know it never gives up. The forest destroyed by fire eventually reseeds itself. Animals that have all but disappeared return as humankind removes its influence. Nature usually heals without advanced warning, fanfare, or acknowledgement. How can you honor the feminine energy today, either with your own mother, the women and men who have provided you with mothering, or from nature herself? There is only one life. No matter what our relationship is with our birth mother or the woman who raised us, we can connect on the basis of that one energy moving through, in, and as us. And so it is. Time for Edward to come up.
Appreciate that. Of course, as everyone is well aware, today is Mother's Day. And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers and stepmothers and foster mothers and associate mothers in our community today. I would just say there's no question that you have played a vital role in raising the future generations of conscious beings. And if your family's in town, chances are you're being honored with them today, maybe rather than being here at this service. So for those of you who are being honored by your family, our love goes out to you as well. So of course today's topic has to be the divine feminine. Say, examining the other aspect of God or creator or source. And we're all well aware that the term feminine is not associated with gender. In this case, it's associated with an energy. And it's not about what gender you are either, because all of us have both the divine feminine and the divine masculine within us. And many, many mystical practices throughout history have described the dualities that exist in everyone, in the male and the female. And again, it's impossible to discuss one energy without the other. So I think as the reading mentioned, the divine feminine represents the nurturer and the healer within us, and the masculine symbolizes the inherent leader. And the divine feminine complements the qualities of the divine masculine, or vice versa, whichever works best for you. There's no question that we need both, the yin and the yang. And, you know, Christianity and Hinduism and many of the other spiritual groups and religions acknowledge the divine feminine. And as we favor, perhaps, the divine masculine, we ignore the very energy of creation that we all came from. This mother that we all have guaranteed. The essence of spirituality involves going within, and which, as we know, is the divine feminine. So interestingly enough, when we worship the divine masculine, we tend to look upwards. You know, the guy with the beard in the sky, right? So one might say the sky is the masculine god. And when we worship the feminine, we typically look at the planet on which we exist. So it's natural to think of Earth as the mother, because it produces life. Everything that nourishes us comes from the earth. And therefore it's dare I say, from a masculine sense, it's logical that when we say earth, we think of the feminine, and vice versa. So let's just do a little contrast and compare with the energies of the masculine and feminine. I'm going to minimize what we say about the masculine just for the purposes of this, but we know that the traits associated with the divine masculine typically are logic, reason, action, firmness, survival, loyalty, adventurousness, strength, rationality, leadership, and the masculine is typically thought of as the doer. And I think in today's society, we have honored and perhaps over-honored the masculine traits that we've talked about. So on the feminine side, the feminine qualities are intuitive, heart-centered, forgiving, compassionate, healing, empathetic, nurturing, creative, collaborator, nature lover, lover, kind, gentle, communicator. So I think possibly or probably our first thought when I read you this list is you immediately turn to thinking about this with respect or in relationship to others, right? But we also need to think about these characteristics with respect to ourselves. No matter what, our very first relationship is always going to be with ourselves. If you want to express more love outwardly, be kinder and gentler to others, be more loving, kinder, and gentler to yourself or ourselves. In Science of Mind, we talk about the love and the law. And the law is the masculine energy, the doer, and the love is the feminine. And as been mentioned before, Ernest Holmes in his later writings mentioned that perhaps he should have spent a little bit more time discussing the love aspect and maybe a little bit less on the law. So Holmes says, we live in a universe of love as well as a universe of law. One is the complement of the other. The universe of love, pulsating with feeling, with emotion, and the universe of law, the executor of all feelings and all emotion. So when we want to get something done, we use the law, the doer. Just like we talked about consciousness machine a couple of weeks ago. You set your program into the consciousness machine and you turn the crank and it happens. So I'm going to take a little detour to the early church. And most of us, having been raised in a very masculine society, we were also probably raised in a very masculine-oriented church, our starter church. And the women kind of got a short shrift there. So when I was growing up, as you know, I grew up Catholic. When we talked about the women of the Bible, we, of course, had to talk about Mary Magdalene. And she was the perfect example of the prostitute who washed Jesus' feet and dried his feet with her hair. So let's open this up a little bit. It was in 1611 that the King James Version of the Bible was first written and compiled. And it was compiled by a number of folks, and I believe they were all men. However, in 1896, some discoveries were made, similar to the discoveries of the Dead Sea Scrolls. And that discovery included the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Philip, and the Acts of Peter, along with the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. Now that was, almost 300 years, after the King James Version had been imprimatur. Well, actually, the Catholic Church doesn't imprimatur the King James Version, but that's beside the point. But anyway, it was not to be changed. And so perhaps these other gospels were true, but we're not gonna rewrite the Bible. We've been using that sucker for 300 years. At any rate, in what they call the Gnostic Gospel, or the Gospel of Mary Magdalene is one of those, she appeared as a disciple of Jesus and was singled out by Jesus for special teachings. And from Paul's writings, we see that he says, Jesus loved Mary more than any of the rest of the apostles, and in a way that was different from them. In one excerpt after Jesus was gone, the other disciples were sitting around rather discouraged and grieving Jesus' death. And Mary stands up and she attempts to comfort them, reminding them that Jesus' presence remains with them. Peter asks her to tell them some words of Jesus that she remembered. And to his surprise, she doesn't reminisce about past conversations with Jesus, but claims that Jesus spoke to her that very day in a vision. Now imagine how this might have threatened the early church. Some other maybe best kept secrets of Christianity is that enormous role that women played in the early church. For example, what we understand, even from the accepted Gospels, if you will, that women were the last disciples at the cross and the very first at the empty tomb. They remained integral to the work of the church in the early centuries. In some other writings, the apostles acknowledged that Mary Magdalene was their equal, as were other women who traveled with Jesus and the apostles. And many of the early home churches were operated or sponsored by women. So I just mention all this because the role in early Christianity of women was very important. And although in later time the women's spiritual leadership in the church may have been removed from the teachings, it still remained. So coming back from our little side trip there, let's talk a little bit more specifically about the divine feminine and how we might get closer in touch with the divine feminine. And I might say this does not just apply to the men in the group. It may apply to some women as well. Because even in this society that we've grown up in, it has been a doing society in general. So I think maybe all of us can benefit from awakening the divine feminine. So first of all, follow your intuition. Where have we heard that before, right? Again, most of us are trained to rely on our inner intellect and logic when making decisions. So if you next time give it a little practice, time to make a decision, try to tune into your intuition. What is your inner voice telling you? And it doesn't have to make sense, logical sense, but maybe it just feels like the right decision to be made, even if it does defy your logic. At this point, I want to also mention that we have completed the Joe Dispenza series on Thursday nights. We're going to take a couple weeks break, and then we're going to have 3 weeks of a course by one of the women that's in the Joe Dispenza Thursday night group, which we're going to have to change the name perhaps. But I just want to mention that she's going to give a 3-week course on, the short term is channeling, but it really is how to get in touch with your inner self. You don't have to think of channeling as Edgar Casey and, trance channeling, all that. You don't have to do that. But if you're interested in getting a little closer touch with your higher self, if you will, or even your teachers, and some people call them their angels, then you might be interested in that class, which starts 3 weeks from this past Thursday. So back on course here. Here's a good one, because I've known some people that this could apply to. Know that it's okay to rest. I remember one person saying, I have to constantly be doing things, otherwise I'm afraid I might fall asleep. It's like, well, I mean, maybe that's being a little extreme, but still. Again, you know, our culture is such that we're always hustling and bustling around. So take some time for yourself to rest and recharge, and don't beat yourself up about it. Set aside some time every day to be still and tune into your heart. For some of you, it may look like meditation. Others, it may not. But just be. If you remember, Peggy Shin talks about her doobie-doobie-doo. Sometimes we got to do, and sometimes we got to be. All right, embrace sensuality. Oh, I don't know what that brings to your mind, but remember, sensuality doesn't necessarily mean sexuality. Sensuality is to be present with all your senses and deepen the pleasure of what you're taking in. Be aware of the clothes you wear, something as simple as that. The sounds you hear, savoring your food. Kind of reminds me about being in the now. So how about eating while watching TV? That's a good one. Not. I used to watch Wheel of Fortune every night, and that was dinner time. And what I discovered is dinner wasn't done until Wheel of Fortune was over. So that didn't help for controlling how much I ate. So kind of silly. So when you're eating, eat. When you're doing other things, do them. Get in touch with your creativity. We have some very creative people around here. Doug, for one. You know, I'm looking at you at the moment anyway, but I know there are other creative folks here as well. What would you love to create? How about writing a book, learning to dance, you know, any of these different things, making clothes. The divine feminine energy is all about embracing and expressing your creative self through everything and anything that makes you feel like you. We have some potters in the group as well. Prioritize yourself. Self-care is so important. After all, we can't nurture those around us if we don't take care of ourselves. There's a reason that the airline host, whatever, says, if we lose oxygen, a mask will drop from the ceiling above you. Put your if you're traveling with youngsters, put your mask on before you put their mask on, right? If you suffocate, you can't help anybody. So consciously schedule this me time so that you can better connect with others after connecting with yourself. I know some folks use journaling and maybe even just watching your favorite movie. But I wouldn't say that this is a time to watch the news. Okay? Perhaps you want to spend some time, if you're a lucid dreamer, analyzing your dreams. We know that your dreams connect us, or our dreams connect us to our inner thoughts and feelings. There's plenty of places you can go on the web or books to find out if your dreams are perhaps a message from the universe. And sometimes that helps. That's another way of tuning into your inner guidance. The last one that I'm going to talk about here, there's a few others I'm sure, is to spend some time in nature. We instantly connect with the sacred feminine by spending time with Mother Earth. In nature, the feminine creative energy runs wild. Its physical beauty is visible, and I think every one of you probably admired the roses as you came through here. And John, thank you for caring for those this week. You might consider walking barefoot on the earth, grounding, right? I know this is Las Cruces, and the air outside isn't always fresh, but spending a few minutes outside enjoying the fresh air, walking barefoot in the grass, might be thought of as soul food to help awaken your feminine divine. So just in summary, the feminine divine and the feminine masculine can't exist without the other. No matter our gender, we have both energies within us. They just might not be evenly balanced. The energy of the feminine embodies the nurturer, the healer, the compassionate peacemaker, while the masculine energy is focused on doing and achieving. Too much masculine and we get aggression and domination. Too much feminine and we get disempowerment and stagnation. Through honoring the sacred feminine, we find natural access to spiritual qualities like receptivity, patience, the ability to listen, and the care for all life. The divine feminine is what allows us to just be. It is powerful, loving, and caring, and allows faith, trusting, deep inner knowing, and higher intuition. The divine feminine discovers her way from the inside by feeling wisdom, love, and freedom from within. She is magnetic and attracts everything she wants simply by knowing that it is already hers and allowing for the manifestation of her dreams. This I confirm with my entire being, and so it is. So let's just take a minute, and we're going to have a prayer. It's possible that everyone has someone in our life that could use a little help, a little greater understanding of what's going on in their life. And so we hold this prayer, we say this prayer for them as well as for ourselves. And for our mothers, all those who are still with us and those who have passed. So first and foremost, we know that Mother, Father, God is all there is. Spirit, the doer and the creator, is all there is. The dance between the doer and the creator is sometimes called the music of the spheres. So we know that as we are a piece and a part of that divinity, that masculine and feminine divinity, that doing and creating, we have inherited all those same qualities. We do and we create. As we say, that consciousness machine knows not who is operating it and just produces the output that is programmed into it. So we program for ourselves more joy, more love, more peace, more health, more creativity, more productivity if we want it. We know that the divine supports us from the bottom up. The divine is here as we experience the divine through ourselves and for ourselves and for the world. The divine, this God, this Mother, Father, God, has our back. So we give thanks that we have this understanding that we truly are creators as well, as livers and experiencers of creation. We give thanks for this philosophy. We give thanks for this understanding. We give thanks for this knowing and this believing. And from this point of gratitude, we release this prayer into the law, into the doingness of the divine. And we let it go because we know that it is already happening. It is already done. And so it is. So now we have, is this a duet or a trio today for our second special music? No, is Edwin coming up with the... It's a trio. It's a trio. All right.
Well, we could just make it a whole group sing. We'll make it a 12-tet or 15-tet. I'm gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Well, study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Well, study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I'm gonna put on my long white robe down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna put on my long white robe down by the riverside, study war no more. Well, I ain't gonna study war no more, study war no more, study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Well, study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I'm gonna put on my golden shoes down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna put on my golden shoes down by the riverside, study war no more. Well, I ain't gonna study war no more. Well, study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Well, study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I'm gonna play my harmonica. Down by the riverside. Well, I ain't gonna study war no more. Well, study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Well, study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I'm gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, study war no more. One more time, ain't gonna study war no more. Well, study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Well, study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, as we acknowledge and receive our virtual and in-person gifts, we give great thanks for the offerings already given and those we will be receiving, because we know that giving and receiving are both part of the one flow. We affirm that we are also part of that flow. We bless these gifts and know they are multiplied throughout our community. There are a number of folks who have contributed to the production of this service. We are grateful for their service, and we thank you all for joining us today. Lastly, stay around in the Zoom meeting after service to visit or join us in the social hall. Now, please stand as you are able and read with me the benediction followed by our congregational song. Spirit in the midst of us is mighty. Joy, peace, and eternal life are our true nature and flow through us into the world, and so it is.